Hey guys, this is David from the Modern Martial Artist. Let's get the podcast started. I put timestamps to all the things I ended up talking about. If you just want to skip to one thing, if you're only interested in one thing. And if I start talking too slow for you guys, just speed me up. You could do that on YouTube now too. So, getting started with it. Uh, so I saw that guy, I forget his name, but he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about an all-meat diet. Um, and I'm like, I was a personal trainer for a while. I've been into diet and nutrition. I'm still pretty fit at 30. Could still do a lot of pull-ups, still do a lot of push-ups, still do high jumps and front flips and back flips and all that kind of stuff. And I could still spar. And so I consider myself a healthy specimen to try this out on. I figure if it messes me up, that I could get back in good form or whatever. And I was planning on trying it for like 2 weeks if I liked it, and then a month if I didn't. And I think I started 8 days ago, something like that. And the first 2 days, I felt amazing. I just had steak the first day, but like a lot. Like I had 2 pounds of steak, and then the second day I added it. It was like mostly just chicken with some bacon too, added in, and a bit more steak. So I was pretty happy. And those first 2 days, I felt really good, like really good. My energy was solid. I felt full. I didn't wake up hungry like I normally did, and I felt like my body made so much needed repairs that maybe I hadn't been eating enough protein, or at least enough not enough natural protein. I'm not sure how much those protein shakes or protein powders do. I usually have one of those a day, but I guess it wasn't doing as much as I thought it was doing. So that was all good. But then the third day, my digestive tract just was, which was predictable. I was thinking that was one of the problems. If you just keep shoveling this stuff down your throat, your stomach's gonna be like, I can't keep up with this anymore. So my stomach started hurting. I started getting low energy. It just wasn't working out, as much as I thought it would. I tried, my muscles were repairing pretty much the normal amount. I think after that first initial boost of like, yay, extra protein, and then they started repairing less, which I think is probably, well, I know it's, without any kind of scientific experimentation, obviously, I know it's due to no carbohydrates, because those are essential for repairing your body. Hands down. They're also responsible for releasing, the sugars themselves are responsible for releasing a lot of hormones, or helping release those hormones that help muscle growth and repair and recovery and all that stuff too. So it's been 8 days. I was hoping to make it to 2 weeks. I started the last 3 days or so trying to add some more fiber in there, like sweet potato, yams, and then I tried adding in avocado. I'm just giving up on it. I can't do it anymore. Maybe the guy and I have different body types. I did the genetic background and ancestry thing a while ago, and apparently, I'm like one side of my ancestry, I'm related to these guys in Norway who I shit you not, they dress like elves. And they're reindeer herders, which makes it hilarious. If you look up the Sami people, I think that's how it's pronounced. They dress like freaking elves, and all they used to eat ever was reindeer. Like reindeer milk. They'd bleed the reindeer and drink their blood if they weren't gonna kill the reindeer, and they just move them from place to place across this frozen wasteland, which is probably why I can't get a tan to save my life. I just burn and then it comes off, and then it's pale white again. But so I would think I'd be genetically inclined to handle that if anyone was. But for whatever reason, this guy's saying it worked for him. There are other people online who are saying it worked for them. It didn't work for me. The only thing I could think of that I didn't try is that there's supposed to be a lot more nutrients, and a lot more, just a lot of good stuff basically in like liver, kidneys, animal organs basically. So I was obviously just eating the tissue. I was just eating the muscle and the skin and getting the fat. Maybe I wasn't absorbing that nutrients as much, but for whatever reason, I'm gonna need to give it up. My stomach's killing me, low energy, and but I'll tell you one thing: if you only eat meat for like a week, a banana will be the most insane thing you ever. It'll be amazing. It'll be like the best cheesecake, ice cream, whatever you like. It'll be like the best thing you ever had. I gave it up last night, and I just had but I tried some like slow digesting carbs. and I just had a banana like a couple hours ago, and man, I was like, like I literally made that noise. I'm not exaggerating. I'm like, I kept going, whoa, damn. No one was around, so it wasn't as embarrassing as you think it would be. I was kind of embarrassed for myself, honestly. But yeah, any kind of sugar, even from a fruit, is going to be the best thing you've ever tasted. If you guys think I gave up too soon, maybe I don't know, toxins being expelled, or usually I'd say that's bullshit, but toxins being expelled and I needed to wait it out, or I needed to try the organs or anything like that. If you've tried it before and you've had success with it, then yeah, let me know in the comments what you did differently. So yeah, that's just getting that health thing out of the way. Something I tried, something that I probably won't try again, but let me know in the comments. Alright, so next, I'm going to talk about two fights kind of at the same time because they have the same theme for me. The first is the fight from last night, which is RDA versus Lawler. RDA versus Lawler. And then the second, the name's hard to say, I guess, without me sounding stupid. But that's the first one. Second one is Alvarez versus Gaethje. And the overwhelming theme with all of these fights, to me, is that even though I loved it as a fan, I'd consider myself more of a martial artist than a fan. Like, not in the way to where like I think I'm better than these guys. Obviously, I'm not. All these guys could kick my ass easily. But just towards like in the way that a musician appreciates technical skill of the music. They could like different genres, but and they they could like people who are sloppy with their technique, but it needs to be like for a reason. Not as a fan, I love both these fights, but as a martial artist, I'm gonna say it like a PSA. I'm gonna get super serious. So hold on. Like cue the Sarah Michelle, not Sarah Michelle Gellar, Sarah McLachlan music. Cue the Sarah McLachlan Arms of the Angel music. Okay, I'm gonna stare into the camera here. There is no excuse for poor lead leg defense. In MMA today, there are many fighters going out into the ring and leaving all of their weight onto their lead legs with no plan about how to defend themselves, thinking they could just take all the impact and just soldier through to land some hard shots, not realizing that every time they take a strike to their lead leg, their power diminishes tenfold. So yeah, seriously, like, obviously it worked for Alvarez, but the only reason it worked is because Gaethje has the most terrible guard of all time. I admire a lot of stuff about the guy. He has really good power. He has a lot of good stuff going for him. But his whole solution when he gets attacked is to just shell up and then stay there, not even move. I have no problem with a moving guard. You don't have to be super complex like Holloway. But you have to, if you're going to shell up, at least move while you shell up so you can deflect some of the punches, like Triple G does. I don't even need to name names. There are a bunch of boxers who are amazing at that. They shell up, but then they move. They kind of roll with the punches, deflect it off their guard, and then they're deeper inside or they're taking outside angle, and they go into it. But so that's the only reason that Alvarez was able to kind of pull that off, and the fact that they were both just kind of playing a game of chicken at the end, with their hand fighting with both hands out, and then just going for just kind of trading uppercuts until one of them remembered it was a MMA fight and then went for a knee. So yeah, it pisses me off. I'm happy they were good fights. I'm happy that they were, that people got what they wanted to see, which was kind of an epic battle, and it was cool. Most violent man in the UFC or whatever is. How about someone who doesn't get the shit kicked out of their leg and needs to spend like a month on crutches? How about that? Because at this point, like, that's not gonna work anymore. Because people are getting so talented. People are coming up not just with one specialty. They're coming up in MMA gyms right now. It doesn't feel weird to them to transfer from boxing to clinching to grappling. Well, obviously grappling is clinching, but you know what I mean. To stand-up grappling to groundwork to all that. It doesn't feel weird anymore. They're used to chaining those things together easily. It feels natural. And it's the same with the lead leg checks. You need to be able to check. You need to be able to move your foot back. You need to be able to make them pay for kicking you. I mean, people kind of caught on, and they're getting better about retracting their kick or just putting their foot right down to the floor, so it's harder to grab it. And in his defense, Alvarez did try to grab his leg, but it was the kicks were too low for that, and Alvarez was actually like putting his hand near the floor trying to grab those kicks, which I didn't understand why Gaethje didn't capitalize on that and start feinting those, knowing that his guard was going to be like wide open, just wide open. If you're fighting someone and every time you go for a leg kick, they drop their guard so bad they nearly put their hand to the floor. I don't understand why you don't take advantage of that. But I mean, hats off to Alvarez for pulling it off, and to both of them, it was a good fight. And then RDA, I felt just like there was Lawler just kind of lazily lifted his leg or turned it a little bit, but there was no plan. And I understand it's harder for the Biggie. It's harder for Biggie, yo. No, I understand it's harder for the bigger guys to move as quick and all that kind of stuff. But you gotta have at least a leg check or just clear your foot, or just change angles. There's so many things you do. You could throw a cross. You could step in and throw a straight cross right down the center. Not only will it hit them, it'll dispel some of the force. If you're a good kicker, then your lead leg side kick to the diaphragm. I love using that on Muay Thai guys I know who are trained in Muay Thai, because they're squared up anyways, and then they have that big load up, either like a switch step or an obvious step to the outside. And it's really easy to just lift up your leg and just kind of push them off balance. If you're lucky, you'll wind them, but either way, you'll stop them from doing that. So there's that option too. There's obviously checking. There's changing angles every time you see them lift their leg. There's what Holloway does with the lead foot feinting, just breaking his rhythm and then moving his foot up and down. That worked great against Aldo. And it's just, there's so many things you can do. I don't understand just sacrificing your lead leg like that, and everyone's turning into Diaz for some reason. You could still get power. You just need to get in close before you rest your weight on your lead leg. There's no reason to stand with your weight on your lead leg unless you're trying to set something up. So, yeah, that pissed me off. That being said, really looking forward to see if RDA is gonna fight Woodley. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know. Tell me who you guys think would win that one. I don't want to go too far into it because trying to keep it on track here. But in the comments section, just tell me your initial thoughts on that, and I'll probably go more into that in a breakdown or podcast later on. All right, so that's all I got to say about those two fights, because that's all that stood out to me as a fan. Really happy with both of them. In a martial arts context, as looking at it as the art of martial arts and looking at it cerebrally and all that kind of stuff, getting kind of annoyed with people who aren't. I mean, these guys are amazing. You can't take away what they sacrifice. It's absolutely incredible, but I guess the fault kind of lies with the coaches, because either the fighters are refusing to adapt to how quickly the sport is going, or their coaches are refusing to adapt, or their coaches just don't know, which is scary. If you're a fighter coming up and you're going to a coach who's could be just a few years behind, but those few years make all the difference in the world, and you're just the sacrificial lamb who doesn't know the different ways to get around, to protect your lead leg and still hit hard by entering with power into your lead leg too. So yeah, moving on. Let's get to the next one. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is crouching down in boxing, and is it time for a rule change? Because at this point, it's kind of just like when you used to play video games and you used to just spam that low leg kick. You just hit it over and over and over again, and then you'd back the person up into the corner, and they just couldn't attack you or block or defend. You just win the round with that tiny leg kick. It's kind of the same thing in boxing with crouching down low, because you can't really hit your opponent effectively with any kind of power unless you want to literally do the frog punch move from Ippo, you know? Unless you want to crouch down really low. Like when Lomachenko was fighting Rigondeaux, he was punching down. He was also punching from his hips straight, and he was trying to punch up an uppercut, getting down. But he didn't want to unbalance himself. But he still got a warning, which I thought was pretty unfair. Because if the only thing you're exposing, the only target you're exposing is kind of that gray zone, that's kind of the back and kind of the side of your head, then that's gonna slip, and it's funny because McGregor had the same idea against Mayweather, but McGregor was kind of taunting the rules of boxing, which a lot of you guys got really pissed off when I said that McGregor forced Mayweather to come out and fight more. And I didn't do a breakdown, and I've always said it kind of just be how both of them were breaking the rules. But what I saw from what McGregor was doing is that McGregor got in the same position, so that was smart. He got in the same position of footwork as Lomachenko did. He followed him as he leaned back in his crouch. But then McGregor kind of just taunted the sport of boxing, and in so doing, I felt taunted Mayweather's entire sport and made him kind of be more active earlier on than he would have wanted to be, or more aggressive earlier on than he would have wanted to be. But he taunted it by just kind of hammering him on the back of the head, kind of saying like, hey, this is unrealistic. This is how unrealistic your sport is. This wouldn't work in the real world. And of course, against an untrained person, boxing would work very, very well in the real world. Even if you don't know any grappling at all, it's just so... It's 10 over, 100 to 1, I'd take the guy who knows boxing over an untrained person. Same as a wrestler. I'd take a guy who knows wrestling over I'd take anyone, pretty much. But you'd have to find like a really bad style for me not to take that. But especially boxing, or wrestling, in a street fight, just because it's usually over in 10 seconds, and you want the guy who's either gonna who's gonna tack you to the ground and possibly throw you and throw the other guy onto the ground and knock the wind out of him, like judo or wrestling or whatever the hell you want to do, or a boxer who just knocks him out in one blow and has been training his reflexes for that long and doesn't get intimidated or whatever. But that's what McGregor was saying by tapping him on the head like that. It's also what he was saying by getting behind him, too. And you know what? That is a big problem in boxing nowadays. And Rigondeaux just kind of showed what a big problem it is, because even though Lomachenko was landing with pretty much the only power possible, unless, like I said, he wants to crouch down low and squat and frog punch him, with pretty much as much power as possible. Actually, I take that back, because Rocky Marciano came in with like a shuffling shovel hook. So he kept his elbow pinned to his hip, but shuffled in and did it in like a gazelle punch. And I can't remember who he did that against, but that was a knockout. So I guess it is possible, but there's very few ways to do it with any kind of power, and you'll still get called on it, it looks like. And it turns the whole thing into kind of a mockery. And speaking of Rocky Marciano, there are people who came in with a crouch, and they'd like crouch down, and they'd like use it to enter, and like Roberto Duran did that too, and they'd use it to get in close range. They'd use it just for a second, and when you do it that way, you're still giving the other guy a chance, to hit you. Because you're still performing some kind of offense. You're not just leaning down and then pivoting, and then leaning and pivoting, and then leaning back, and all that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if it's time for a rule change, as more and more people are kind of catching onto this, because it looks like you could, taunt the guy, you could humiliate him, but really, if he chooses to do that, there's not much you can do. Like the shots that Lomachenko landed that I felt were kind of harder were as Rigondeaux was finally coming up. So Lomachenko just kind of stuck to him long enough to where he finally came up, and then Lomachenko was able to throw, but they still needed to be such tight shots too. And that's where I thought McGregor had a chance too. While I'm on this, because I've had a question for a while that a lot of people have been asking, which is, why did McGregor lack his normal power? Was it the gloves? Was it this? Was it that? And McGregor changed the way he punched, is what it is. He didn't learn how to punch like a boxer, but he didn't keep the style that worked for him. Like McGregor was punching down as he rose up as he was straightening his legs, like entirely. And you know when that works is it works when you lift your back foot off the ground and you pivot, you hinge over your lead hip. That's when that works. And Pacquiao does something a little similar too. But it doesn't work when you're just stationary, staying in the same spot, and you're raising up, like you're throwing an uppercut, more than a good boxer would throw an uppercut and raise up, and you're punching down. So I thought he had a chance if he neutralized Mayweather's clinching, because that's so much of his game, and McGregor's used to that. And if he caught him as he pivoted away with that extra reach and that extra power as he pivoted over his lead leg. And he didn't fight like that. I think he was trying to conserve his energy. But it's like, if you're trying to conserve your energy, then learn how to punch like a boxer. I think he started out boxing, so I don't know who taught him his punches. But yeah, so that's why I think he lacked power. Is he was trying to conserve his energy. He was punching what he thought a good boxer would punch like. But that was confusing why he made the adjustment, but not all the way, because he has a boxing background, so I don't really get what he was thinking. It's like he gave up the reach and the angles for in exchange for less power, basically. But he landed a good uppercut, so there is that. But Lomachenko showed the right way to do it, which is basically just embarrass your opponent, but still make an effort to throw legal strikes. But even that was kind of made for a boring fight. So I don't know. I don't know if it needs to be from your head, can no longer be below your waist. Maybe change it to your head can no longer be below your belly button or your opponent's waist, or you're not allowed to crouch down too low. I don't know how you would solve that to take away that just kind of spam button. It's not a huge thing, but there are fighters that do take advantage of it. Just like there are fighters that take advantage of clinching way too much and make the fight boring. And sometimes I wish that they just, because in the early days, you were allowed to work out of the clinch. And I find that interesting. A lot of people find it boring as hell. And there were people who took advantage of it, back then too as well. But so, yeah, tell me your guys' thought on that. I'm interested in hearing that. I know that's a long time to ramble on about ducking low, about crouching in boxing, but that's kind of what this podcast is it goes more into techniques rather than just personal dramas. I'd rather talk about that than talk about did you hear the latest beef between I don't know, Holloway and McGregor or whatever the hell is, high school shit. I don't want to deal with that. But unless it gets really, really funny, in which case I'm not beyond that. But so yeah, that's it for this week. Hope you guys like the Holloway breakdown. I'm thinking of putting out a book on footwork. So I put out a book on power generation. In case you don't know, I've been spamming you guys with that every single time. But I've been getting a lot of sales, and I've been getting a lot of good reviews. Someone wrote me and said that it's helping out their power, and that they showed one of the techniques to their friends, and their friends got a knockout with that technique. And I asked them to put that on my Amazon, but I'm really just I'm like, yeah, holy shit, yes, that's why I wrote the book. I'm so glad, because this guy says he can't, that they can't, pay for this high level training or whatever. He says he has a coach, and he's a good coach, and his coach is helping him apply these techniques. But yeah, I was just really, really flattered and really happy and really grateful that I helped someone out like that. Which is kind of messed up, because if you look at it, I helped someone knock another human being out. But, I'm sure it was sanctioned competition and all that kind of thing. So you don't need to feel too bad about that. But I just felt like, fuck yeah, that's why I do this. That's what I'm happy about, is when I can help people. Because I'm 30 now. I'll get better skill-wise, but I'm not going to be getting... I might get a little bit more power, probably not much. I definitely won't get any more speed than I've gotten. My journey is kind of slowing down, and I'm looking to transition into just helping other people at the start of their journeys, whether they want that to be just because they want to be the best martial artist they want to be, or whether that's just, or whether it's competition like the guy who wrote me. Either way, or whether it's just you feel like you can't defend yourself and you feel you don't want to admit it, but you feel scared all the time. And you want that feeling to go away. You want to know there's a possibility that if something bad goes down, that there's a greater possibility you'll be able to get out of it safely, if things get fucked. So, all of that, or if you want the focus and the discipline, I could go on and on and on and on about how much I love martial arts for all this stuff. So, yeah, that really made my day. And I'm thinking of putting one out on Footwork. It's a lot of work. So I just really want to know if you guys would be interested in that. And if you guys, I've gotten good feedback so far. If you guys like the first book, if there's anything you didn't like, go ahead and tell me in the comment section. And I'll try to address that for the upcoming book too. So yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you later, putting out some more breakdowns this week, and happy training.